Fulbright English teaching assistant. I'm here with other Americans in Russia helping to teach English, and I'm very happy to be in Kazan, the capital of Tatarstan. So, yay Kazan. And today we're going to talk about economics education in the US. I've had some people asking me about it. I never really thought about it, but it's actually pretty interesting and unique the way it's taught in America. So I have found some information that I think will be interesting for you all. So let's begin. So to start off with, why economics in the US? Why economics anywhere in the world? It's interesting. Each country teaches it in its own way, and I have a couple friends who study economics in the US and they really enjoy the methodology, the teaching techniques, and it would be nice to share that with you all today. So, what is economics? Good question. What do you think economics is? I'll let you think about that. Okay, I'm thinking of something. Okay, so economics is essentially the study of humans and their relationship to money. From what I understand, people that study economics are very interested in this relationship. Quite obviously, humans and money are two very complicated things. Therefore, there's a lot of thought that goes behind studying economics. So Bristol University in the United Kingdom describes economics as the study of the factors that influence income, wealth, and well-being. More on, they say, it is a social science which incorporates math and statistics as well as having connections with the physical sciences such as biology, medicine, and physics, and many other disciplines, including politics, law, geography, and psychology. Okay, that's a lot of stuff, and I just kind of threw that at you. So what does it mean? Like I said, economics is about humans and their relationship with money. So specifically, it is the study of how people seek to satisfy their wants and needs. I guess maybe a good example of this would be food. I love food. Everyone who knows me knows I greatly enjoy a good meal, and I especially enjoy unhealthy food. So perhaps we could say economics is me thinking about, do I want to go to this fast food restaurant or this fast food restaurant? Let's think. Maybe one is closer. Okay, so it's cheaper to go there, but the other one is better and it's farther away. So one could perhaps say I'm making an economic decision. I'm trying to satisfy a want. Well, this is more so a need, my need to eat fast food and french fries. But I'm trying to satisfy this need by calculating what makes more sense in my mind in a, I guess, financial aspect. Hopefully this makes sense. It makes sense to me because it involves food and I love food. So anyways, more on this topic of what is economics. Economics measures and describes the production, distribution, and consumption of wealth. So that could be anything from a person trying to measure their personal finances to a company, or at a larger scale, a government. So governments obviously like to think about economics quite a lot because their GDP greatly relies on people understanding how people and their relationship to money works out. So, but also, I mentioned how economics talks about geography and politics and psychology, so some of these really different things. Economics does not just study money in a vacuum, right? So it studies money in the real world. So it's one thing to have theories about what this means and what this other thing means, but it's important to really get down to kind of emotions, which is why some people like to joke that economics is the most sciencey of the social sciences. So economics is, from what I understand, it is not technically like a hard math or a hard technology study. It is a social science. For example, at my university, we had a building for social sciences, so psychology, political science, things like that, and economics was there. Of course, some of these economics kids took classes in the business school or they took classes in our engineering departments, but economics is very much a social science. It studies social behaviors in people. So let's see if I have a better or kind of one more good definition to give you guys. Okay, People and money. That's a good takeaway, I think. People and money. So those are kind of interesting things. All right, so now we can talk about why study economics. What are your reasons? Are you wanting to study it because you want money and you want to be wealthy? Well, we all want that, of course, you know. But it's probably a better idea to study economics because you're actually interested in the science behind economics, right? You're interested in, I just said science there. You're interested in why people make certain purchases. Why do governments support certain economic policies but then don't like certain other economic policies? Why do we have money? Why does money exist? Why don't we use, I don't know, electronic money like Bitcoin or other things like that? Maybe we will. Who knows? These are interesting topics that I think economics and people who study economics can answer. So, before I said it was the most science based of the social sciences, and that's because it really focuses on taking a lot of the big social questions you get and making them more data centered. So, I studied as a political scientist when I was for my bachelor's degree, and we would ask questions like poverty in the US, what caused it, what is continuing to cause it, what kind of solutions do we have? And our professors would make us write very long essays about poverty in the US and things like that. Perhaps an economist, instead of writing an essay, they might do a mathematical equation or something like that. But perhaps the math equation focuses a lot on people and how people decide to buy certain things, they don't buy certain things, or how governments support certain behaviors with economic or fiscal programs, right? So it's really focused on a lot of data, from what I understand. Economics is also, it generates a lot of black and white answers. So if you're someone who's interested in these big theoretical questions, but you want more concrete black and white answers, I think studying economics would be a very good choice for you. So yeah, plus you get to say you're an economist, and that word sounds really cool, and I think people will respect you. They'll be like, wow, they understand people and money, two things that I don't understand, and probably most people don't either. So you'll have lots of answers. Good for you. All right, moving on. How is economics taught in the US? So this is the bulk of our presentation, and I'll spend most of the time here explaining it because it is interesting and it also varies a lot between universities. So that being said, my answers will be more generic, I think, just because I don't want to say this is how economics is taught in the US. If you hear something different, that's not true, because it really depends on the school. It really depends on maybe even your geographic location in the US. So this information will be very generic. And when we talk about studying economics, in America, it means studying economics at a university. Perhaps people can take economics classes when they're in high school, but most people, you really study a subject when you go to a university. Now, in America, our universities are split into, well, for economics, we'll say they're split into really three main areas of difficulty and specificity. So specificity is how specific you study something. So the first level is the Bachelor of Arts level, or I can just say the bachelor's level. At this level is probably the most common level that economics is studied. This is for people who are fresh out of high school, so high schoolers who have just graduated, and they're looking for university to go to. So they're 18, 19 years old, young, interested in just really studying something, getting their foot in the door in the academic world. And so with a bachelor's of economics, you'll have a more broad rather than a deep understanding of economics. Now, what does that mean? So broad is like this, so it's wider, and then depth is this, right? So your knowledge will be good, probably good enough to answer some, maybe even some challenging questions about economics, but it's not going to be very specific. Now, if you're looking for a more specific knowledge of economics, you could study it at the master's level. Master's degrees are for people who have bachelor's already. I personally do not know of any universities in the US that allow you to go straight into a master's. Perhaps they exist, I don't know. But if you want a master's, these are people who study at the bachelor's level in economics and thought one day, you know what? I need more information about this. I have a lot more questions than I have answers. If that's you, I perhaps recommend, excuse me, I recommend getting a master's. And now for the final level of difficulty and specificity, we have the PhD. This is a doctorate degree in economics. Literally, people that get PhDs are experts in their field. You are an expert. You know everything there is to know, or a lot of what there is to know on a very specific subject. So, like I said, from the bachelor's to the MA, to the master's, to the doctorate level, you go from this to more of this, right? So if you're interested in achieving a master's or a PhD, we can talk about some kind of bachelor subjects you can study. Okay, but for the sake of this lecture, we are going to talk about a bachelor's just because most people who study will get a bachelor's, and if you want more specificity, you should probably talk to your university's economics advisor, not me. Okay, so the BA. I said before, the BA is broader than it is deep. And now there are two different kinds of BAs. The first kind is a Bachelor of Arts. Did I say there are two different kinds of BA? There are two different kinds of bachelor's degrees. The first is a Bachelor of Arts. This degree, in my mind, has three main aspects. The first aspect is it's flexible. The second aspect is that it's foundational. And the third is it's theoretical. Now, what do these things mean? Flexible. It's flexible because a lot of people that study a Bachelor's of Arts in economics can go on to study law in law school, or they can go on to get an MBA in business school, or they can maybe study something completely different and go get a master's in art, right? So a bachelor's in economics is for students who want flexibility of a good bachelor's degree, but also want some economics knowledge. Why is it foundational? It's foundational because it provides a lot of really just good knowledge that anyone who gets a bachelor's could use. So you learn about social issues, like social science things, and you also learn math and some statistics. So these are really good subjects that all people should study. So for example, I will talk again about political science because that is what I studied. As a political scientist, I do not like math. I don't understand math, but I know I have to deal with it. And because of that, my university required everyone who was a non-math major to study statistics and math. You have to do it. If you study economics, that's built into the degree. You have to study it already. And because your degree deals with a lot of with math, you, I think, probably have a better understanding of math. So that's cool. And it's also quite theoretical. Now, what does this mean? Theoretical, this kind of goes off of the flexibility and the foundationalness of it. It's theoretical because you get to answer some really cool social questions. So I mentioned before poverty. Okay, you can run certain models, maybe do group projects with other students and try to find economic answers to poverty in the US or poverty in any other country or area. So that's kind of cool. And it also just allows people to learn a lot about social issues, I think, as well. So that's why it's quite theoretical. Now, the other kind of a bachelor degree in economics, BS, that stands for a Bachelor's of Science. And this also has three different aspects to it as well. First aspect, math. A lot of math here. Second, it prepares people who want to go into a technical field. Thirdly, it is for people who are interested in studying it at the graduate level, okay? Now let's talk about these three things, just like we did with the Bachelor of Arts. Math. You do a lot of math in the Bachelor of Science economics degree. So you do, it seems to me, more than in the Bachelor of Arts one. So if you're interested, if you like math, do this. This is great. You like doing equations? Do it. You like calculus? Do it. You like differential equations? I'm not sure if that's involved. Maybe. Do it. Okay. Technical field. So this is more so for economists who I think are less interested in theoretical questions and more interested in applying their economics knowledge to really technical issues, if that makes sense. So we talked about poverty. Why does it exist? perhaps these economists will look into government policies and try to understand what equations or what kind of data they use and how it can be shifted or improved to better understand poverty. And then also, if you're interested in pursuing a master's or a PhD, this is also recommended for you, simply because a lot of the topics that a Bachelor of Science in Economics discusses will be again mentioned at the master's or the PhD level. So it just really prepares one to think at a higher and more advanced level, mainly because I think it's a lot more specific. It's much more deep than it is broad. So it really gets your mind thinking about that. Okay. Also, so another part of understanding how economics is taught in the US is understanding our academic culture in the US. So as someone who has studied international affairs and things like that, and who is currently living in a foreign country, I can tell you classroom culture is very, very different. I was quite surprised. It's not good and it's not bad, but I will just let you know about US classroom culture. So as you're pursuing, or maybe hope to pursue, an economics degree at an American institution, it's good to know what things you can expect and what things you should do in a US classroom. So, one of the first things, active participation. What does this mean? Active participation is you need to talk in class. So for example, I'm a professor. I'm giving a lecture. Okay, please ask questions. Please be active. Please try to think of your own questions or maybe even disagreements with the professor. It's okay. Also, in American classrooms, we do a lot of group work. So the professor might lecture you for 15 minutes, 20 minutes out of an hour-long class, and then the rest of it is discussions. So if you have 40 minutes of discussion and you're not talking, gonna be a problem. Make sure you talk. It's also really cool because you get to hear what your peers are saying. You get to hear their opinions. And one of the most wonderful things about learning is going to a class, hearing someone say something wildly different than you ever could have imagined, and then you think about that during an assignment and you think, wow, what a great idea that kid had. So talking and also listening really enhances your learning experience in ways that I can't even describe. Okay, what else do we have of American classroom culture? Independent thinking, also important. What does this mean? This means that in the US classroom, it's important to have your own ideas. It is very important to be unique in everything you think and you say. Now, this does not mean just make up stuff off the top of your head. You can't just say to a question about American poverty, you can't just say unicorns are great. That doesn't really make any sense. Very unique. You get uniqueness points, but it's weird. Don't say that. It's better to say something that you've thought about, maybe you read, maybe you saw it in an article, something that contributes in its own way to the classroom conversation. What else do we have? Learner-centered. This is something I've really noticed being a Fulbright English teaching assistant abroad. I've noticed how learner-centered our classrooms are. Now, learner-centered means that the professor is not the center of the classroom. So the students are the center. If you remember, I said not too long ago that perhaps a professor will lecture for 20 minutes and the students will have the rest of that time to work together to maybe do a project, something like that. This means that the professor is hoping you carry your weight in the classroom and contribute in your own way as well. So the professor is most likely not going to lecture for the entire time and then say, okay, class is over. That does happen. I've had classes where the professor lectures quite often, but equally or more often than not, you will have your own little projects that you need to do that show that you're learning. Because if you just listen to a lecture all the time, you're not really showing what you've learned, right? You could literally just be on your phone texting and not learning anything. So, learner-centered. I really like this about our classrooms. What else? Respectful disagreement is accepted and encouraged, actually. Some of the best moments I've had in a classroom have been when students, or even myself, have disagreed with a professor. You don't disagree by saying you're wrong, what you're saying is dumb. You disagree by having an argument, a thoughtfully thought out argument, and then backing up your argument with good reasoning. So this also really enhances the classroom discussion, and it helps everyone to learn because we're not always on the same page. And from disagreements, you can often learn really insightful things that you have never guessed. So I encourage you to disagree, but do it respectfully. So say, excuse me, I don't think this is right, or something like that. What else? Informality. This might be my favorite thing. What does informality mean? This means that I can have a coffee in class, just drinking. This means I can wear flip flops to class. I can wear sweatpants to class. What else? You can eat in class. That has definitely happened before. I'll admit that. But more so, it's not just the physical, not just the tangible side of informality. I think it also means being able to be comfortable in a classroom, right? So, and this is perhaps because I was raised in the American classroom culture, but it's, in my opinion, a lot better for students to be able to relax and just do what they want to do, kind of behave in the way that they want to. That's still respectful because it encourages learning. So that's also a big aspect of our classroom culture. So your brain is there, not your physical self, if that makes sense. And then finally, academic honesty. Super, super, super important. This means that professors and your fellow students expect what you are producing, what you are saying, to be yours. Now, of course, it's okay to quote things, to mention an author in an essay, but please make sure that you cite. Cite, 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 cite. Cite more than you ever think is necessary. Please do it because people get in trouble, legal trouble, and you might even get expelled. Not cool. Imagine getting expelled for not citing something right. That would suck. So the point of this is, please make sure that if you're ever borrowing an idea, you say whose idea it was and then how you've used it, right? This goes more beyond just like a legal thing. Why academic honesty is important to us is because it, in a situation or in a culture where academic honesty is important, people, I think, feel more comfortable sharing their ideas because if there was no safety of my idea, why would I share it? You could just take it and do something with it. And it's also it's easier to build upon a more free and liberal environment. So, as you're getting your economics degree, please keep all these things in mind. Now, fun stuff. What can you do with an economics degree? You can do a lot with it. Maybe you probably already have some ideas of what you want to do, but we'll talk about that. But first, let's get into some of the educational outcomes of an econ degree. Now, by educational outcomes, I mean some of the valuable assets you will gain from an economics degree. So, you will be able to narrow down problems. This is because your degree teaches you how to abstract and simplify problems, right? You'll be able to see an issue very clearly and then create a solution from that, which is pretty cool. Makes you a really good problem solver. What else? You'll be able to analyze and reason. This kind of goes on with the first thing. Because you'll be so good at finding issues and then finding your solutions, it'll just be easier to think about these things in a more global context as well. You can also develop skills such as organization, or you can also organize, build, and analyze qualitative and quantitative data. Data, fun. So you'll be able to look at qualitative data, which is data that is not really supported by numbers, and also quantitative data, which is more number based. You'll be able to conceptualize those as well, which is cool. What else? You can also criticize data by comparing it to real life context. This is really cool. I think maybe perhaps the BS, the Bachelor's of Science, allows you to do this more so. But either way, a bachelor's in economics would definitely help you take a lot of your theoretical knowledge and put it into real life usage. So as a political scientist, that was often something that I didn't like about the degree. A lot of it was very theoretical. So poverty, well, let's look at the history of it. Let's look at our current U.S. policies, and then what are our recommendations? Recommendations are great, but having data or having the ability to really get into something and hand someone tangible recommendations based upon numbers and things like that, I think is really strong. So you'll be able to do that. What else? You can also create solutions. So that's really great. So from the above four educational outcomes, you will be an excellent problem solver. You will just really be able to think about solutions, but also the limits to these solutions, right? So just because you want to do this does not mean that it will be the be all to the end all, right? You'll be able to really analyze things with an unbiased approach, which is good. That's, I think, everything that any academic wishes for. Most of us wish to be like that. And then also, economists, that's a hard word to say, gain special skills that make them very transferable between certain positions. Okay, so I talked about the skills you will have. You'll be able to abstract and simplify problems. You can organize, build, and analyze qualitative and quantitative data. You can put problems or solutions in a real life context. These are skills that anyone who seeks any kind of job can use. So you'll be gaining skills that will take you perhaps from a law firm to a big business to a non-governmental organization, an NGO, right? You're gaining a lot of skills that a lot of companies want. So if you want to have a job, maybe econ's the way to go. Maybe economics is the way to go. Just saying. Okay, now what else do we have? I also have really good information about a list of the ranges of jobs you can have. So professional economists research and analyze economic data, issues, and trends. That's pretty cool. So your job is really, I think, a very current job. It's like a really, not modern, but it's a job that is always thinking of what is happening now. It's always in the moment, which is really wonderful. Okay. And now we can talk more about the large list of possible employers for an economist. So, based off of just the skill sets that you will have with a U.S. economics degree, we will talk now about the different career fields that you can have. So hold on, it's going to be pretty incredible. I was surprised when I found this information, so I know you will be too. Okay, so one of the most common fields people who study economics go into is banking. So banking is common because I think a lot of people who study it are interested in that already. It also offers a really good salary in a challenging workplace. So most of us want a good salary and challenge at the job, so banking therefore makes sense. And often, economic students find themselves doing financial planning, risk analysis, data analysis, and consultations. So if any of that sounds of interest to you, I highly recommend you look into a job post-economics degree in banking. Secondly, accountancy. This is also quite common. However, people that go into accountancy often need extra qualification. So I know in the US, for example, you often need to get a CPA, which is a certification that you are a qualified accountant. So if you're interested in this, please be in mind that after your economics degree, you will need to find extra training. However, there is some hope. It is possible to get an accounting job post-bachelor, right? So it's possible to graduate with a bachelor's in economics and land an accountancy job. It is possible. Moreover, to be an accountant, one must monitor the financial situation of an organization, business, or individual. So, sounds like what an economist would do. Thirdly, there are also many economic careers in business and financial consultancy. So this is much like being an accountant, but it is more so about helping businesses to make money. Quite obvious, right? It's also helpful if someone has a knowledge of corporate finance. So if you're working for a business, you might need to know how other businesses feel about that business and how businesses handle their money. Important. And often these people work for more than one business. So again, the transferableness, right? So not only are your skills transferable, but you are too. That's pretty cool. All right. Then we have public sector economists. So these are people that work for the government or for public organizations, right? These are people that probably are interested in helping public organizations make money, maybe to keep them in the black, make sure that they are making good financial decisions with taxes and citizens' money. Okay? Often, these jobs have gained in popularity. So, there's a lot more of these jobs simply because of the recent economic recession has made it a lot more necessary for governments and other public organizations to have people that help them with their finances. So if you're interested in doing something for the good of the people, maybe this is for you, a job in the public sector. And finally, we have actuarial and data analysis careers in economics. So an actuary is a business professional whose role is to advise on the impacts of financial risk and uncertainty. Sounds pretty scary. It's essentially someone who is an excellent risk manager, someone who is interested in helping a company or a person make the best financial decision. So that job sounds pretty scary, but it sounds like it has a really cool reward. So if you're into that, go ahead and do it. And so with that, I hope everything was interesting. I hope you understood what I was saying. And we will conclude today's lecture on economics education in the U.S. I really hope that you gain some good insight into what a degree in the U.S. would look like and also some of the educational outcomes. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you have food for thought and see you again in the future. Thank you.